Evil narcissistic sister tried seducing my fiancé before my wedding to break us up. Gets caught on camera and disowned by parents. This is about my elder sister, Dove, 29F, who just couldn't stand my existence because apparently I was leading a life that I didn't deserve. She's divorced and living with my parents as she's jobless. She dropped out of college for her rich boyfriend, who eventually divorced her when she showed her true colors. Growing up, my relationship with my sister was never great. She was the pretty and smart one, kind of full of herself. Parents always praised her and sided with her, leaving me with a feeling of incompetence. People raved about her looks while I was just me. It hurt, you know? And she'd use all that to mess with my head, saying nobody liked me. Those childhood digs left me super insecure. My parents never took my side and overlooked my feelings because she always fulfilled their expectations. So I kind of distanced myself from them as a child and teen. She always had friends over at our place when parents were at work. Her friends would mess with my room too, and once they even messed up my project, and I almost failed. I was going to tell Mom about that, but then Dove blackmailed me by saying that she would share my ugly pictures with my classmates, and as a 14-year-old, I got really scared. She never took responsibility for her actions, and telling my parents was pointless because they never paid attention anyways. She did a bunch of stuff that made me hate her guts. Mom never had my back, but Dad would sometimes call her out. Once she used my phone to send weird pics of mine to my girls' group because I complained to Dad about her. Then she spilled coffee on my prom dress and played all victim by crying and saying that she accidentally did so. I stopped confiding in him. I don't get why she had this much hate for me. Later, I realized that she was a narcissist, and it had nothing to do with me. She was a major red flag in her relationships and literally cheated on every guy she dated. I hate to admit it, but she was a gold digger too. Her ex still being my friend says it all. Basically, she was pretty evil as a teen, and as an adult, nothing changed. Her behavior went downhill. It was all my parents' fault because they never tried to discipline her. Anyways, things started getting better after school. I worked hard to get into my dream college, and after a few initial years of struggle, landed my dream job. There I met the love of my life, Atlas, at an office conference. He was smart, kind, and handsome. We got connected instantly, and it was within a few months that we started going out on dates. We traveled a lot for vacations, date trips, and tracks, and it kind of helped our relationship grow strong. Atlas was tight with his siblings, so he introduced me to his brothers and parents just a few months into the relationship. But I took my own sweet time to introduce him to my parents. The main reason I delayed this was because of my sister, Dove, and her evil intentions. I always had a nagging feeling that she would mess up everything. She was the one who always got the best things as a child and as a teenager, and now that my life was sailing better than hers, I'm sure she would not be able to take it, especially the relationship part. However, I could not delay for longer. Atlas was getting suspicious of my reluctance to introduce my family. So after a year and a half of dating, I told Dad about him. He was happy that I found myself a man who was worthy of me. He invited us for dinner. I was excited but equally stressed because I know Dove can go to any lengths to screw up my life. Though Atlas knew about my family dynamics, I still discussed over in detail. He was chill about it and said he'd handle things. A few days later, to my call to Dad, I got a call from Dove. It was surprising because she had never called me before. She was asking me about Atlas and when I would be visiting home. She was more interested in knowing details about Atlas. I'm guessing Mom would have told her that I was dating this guy and we are pretty serious now. She's all trying to get cozy with me, and I was aware of the reason behind her interests. Now I'm worried about whether I should really take the risk of introducing Atlas to Dove. Because I know her intentions are not good. I'm also thinking of an alternative to calling my parents over at my place to introduce Atlas. Update 1. Some of you wanted to know more about Dove, my sister. After her divorce, my parents, especially my dad, changed their views on her, and she messed things up for herself. She used to be good at school, but in college she focused more on her looks than her studies. Dove got into a relationship with a rich guy named Jeremy, and that's when she stopped caring about her education. When I was studying hard for my college entrance exams, Dove kept saying I wouldn't get into my dream college, but I did, and it was the first time my parents were proud of me. They even threw a party to celebrate my achievement, which made Dove jealous because she wasn't the center of attention anymore. At my celebration party for getting into my dream college, Dove wanted all the attention, so she announced her engagement to Jeremy, even though he seemed surprised. She always bragged about Jeremy's wealth and made me feel bad by saying I'd never find someone rich because I'm not pretty. I told her I didn't care about money and could take care of myself. Dove was selfish and mean, so I didn't go to her engagement party a week later. During college, we didn't talk. It was nice going home for holidays because Dove was living with Jeremy and wasn't there. Even on holidays, she'd go on expensive vacations with him. After dating for a year, they had a big wedding, mostly paid for by Jeremy. Dad paid for the rest of the wedding because Dove didn't have any money. Their marriage didn't last long, and they divorced after 3 years. Dove didn't want kids, but Jeremy did, and he felt hurt because she didn't talk about it for 3 years. He also said she drank a lot, partied, and flirted with guys at bars. He felt like she only married him for his money and didn't really care about him. I wondered why he didn't see this earlier. Jeremy showed me videos of Dove partying with other guys, which made me think he was better off without her. My parents blamed Jeremy for everything and didn't see Dove's faults. After the divorce, Dove moved back in with my parents because she didn't have a job. She didn't finish college because she married Jeremy, so now, 5 years later, she still didn't have a degree or a job. She acted like she was upset about the divorce, but she seemed happy to be free. Within a month, she was back to partying and dating. I could tell from her Instagram that she hadn't changed at all. After 2 years in my career, I got my dream job with a great salary, and my parents were really proud. When I visited home to share the news, Dad was thrilled. We were having dinner when Dove came home, looking a bit drunk. Dad was upset to see her like that and said she should have focused on her education like me instead of messing up her life with Jeremy. He even compared my salary to her dependency on them for money. Mom tried to stop Dad from making such comments, but Dove got angry and slammed the door. That's when Dad realized how spoiled Dove was. He told Mom to talk some sense into Dove and get her to take her life seriously. Later, Dove came into my room and insulted me, saying I could never be like her, no matter how much money I made. She made fun of my weight, pointing out my belly fat and chubby cheeks. I was really fed up with her. When I was younger, Dove's hurtful comments used to upset me, but now I just brushed them off. When she insulted me again, I laughed and told her I didn't want to be anything like her. She got really angry and told me to leave the house, but I reminded her it was my parents' house too, and she couldn't kick me out. The next day, when I was packing to leave, I found 2 of my dresses ruined, cut with scissors. I showed my parents what Dove had done, and Dad got really mad. Mom tried to defend Dove, saying she was in shock and didn't mean it, but Dad didn't buy it. He warned Mom to stay out of it and told Dove to get her act together. He said he couldn't keep supporting her if she kept acting like this. Dove was furious and blamed me for everything. Since then, Dove's been really mean to me. I could handle her hating me, but it got too much when she started hitting on my boyfriend. So after thinking about it a lot and talking to Atlas, I decided to visit my parents with him. There was no point hiding him from Dove because she would have found out eventually. My friend said it's better to test him now than regret it later. Dove would only succeed in her plan if Atlas gave in. With a lot of worry, I brought Atlas to my parents' house. Dove was all over him. He was just saying hi to Mom and Dad when Dove hugged him out of nowhere. I don't know why she thought Atlas would like her. She changed her appearance, dyeing her blonde hair black and getting all dressed up like she was on a date with him. She was trying too hard to be part of the conversation, but everyone was ignoring her at the dinner table. When I asked her to move so I could sit beside Atlas, she looked annoyed but moved. She kept asking Atlas about his interests, and if he liked something, she'd say she liked it too, even if she didn't. Then she'd talk about how she and Atlas were so compatible, but she winked at me like it was just a joke. But it was obvious she was trying to cover up her real intentions. Atlas was clearly uncomfortable. He ignored her and changed the subject with Mom and Dad. After dinner, I went to take a shower, and Atlas was left alone when Dove walked in, asking him to call her phone because she couldn't find it. He did that to get her number, which was really sneaky. He also told me that when I was busy, Dove tried to make him feel sorry for her by talking about her divorce and how it took her years to recover. What's worse, Mom joined in, complaining about Dove's ex-husband. After a while, Atlas asked if I wanted to go for a walk to show him around the neighborhood. Before I could answer, Dove said she'd come too. Atlas wanted alone time with me, so he politely told her he wanted to be alone with me. She looked embarrassed and went to her room. It's only been a few days since that visit, and I'm worried Dove will try more tricks to get Atlas. But I trust him, and I want to see how he handles it. Update 1. It's true that my parents, especially my dad, changed their opinion about Dove after her divorce, and she's only got herself to blame. She used to do well in school, but once she got to college, she cared more about her looks than her studies. Dove met a rich guy named Jeremy and focused on him instead of her education. Meanwhile, I was studying hard for my college entrance exams, and Dove kept saying I wouldn't get into my dream college. But I did, and my parents were proud of me for the first time. They threw a party to celebrate my achievement, but Dove wanted all the attention for herself. So she surprised everyone by announcing her engagement to Jeremy, even though he seemed surprised too. She succeeded in making the day about her instead of me. Their marriage didn't last long, and they divorced after 3 years. Dove didn't want to have a baby, but Jeremy did, though he said he never pressured Dove. He was upset that she didn't tell him about her feelings and avoided talking about it for 3 years. Jeremy also mentioned Dove's drinking, partying, and flirting habits, saying she only married him for money and didn't really care about him. I wondered why it took him so long to realize her true intentions. Jeremy showed me videos of Dove drinking with guys at bars where they touched her inappropriately, and she didn't stop them. I'm glad he ended things with her. My parents took Dove's side and blamed Jeremy for wanting kids, ignoring Dove's faults. After the divorce, Dove moved back in with my parents because she didn't have a job. She dropped out of college to marry Jeremy, and now, after 5 years, she still doesn't have a degree or work experience. She acted like the divorce traumatized her, but she seemed happy to be free. Within a month of the divorce, she was back to partying and dating. Her Instagram showed her out clubbing and going on dates regularly. After 2 years in my career, I got my dream job with a good salary, and my parents were proud. When I visited home to share the news, Dad was thrilled. We were having dinner when Dove came home looking a bit drunk. Dad was upset and said Dove should have focused on her education like me instead of her failed marriage with Jeremy. He pointed out how much I was earning and that Dove still depended on them for money. Mom asked Dad to stop making those comments, but Dove got upset and slammed the door. That's when Dad realized how spoiled Dove was. He told Mom to talk some sense into Dove and get her to take her life seriously instead of depending on them. Later, Dove came into my room and insulted me, saying I could never be like her, no matter how much money I made. She body-shamed me, pointing out my belly fat and chubby cheeks. I was fed up with her. When I told her I didn't want to be like her, she got angry and told me to leave the house. I reminded her it was my parents' house too, and she couldn't kick me out. The next day I found 2 of my dresses torn up with scissors. I showed my parents what Dove had done, and Dad got really mad. Mom tried to defend Dove, saying she was in shock and didn't mean it, but Dad didn't believe her. He warned Mom to stay out of it and told Dove to get her life together. He said he couldn't keep supporting her if she kept acting like this. Dove was furious and blamed me for everything. Since Dove's hatred towards me had become unbearable, especially when she started making advances on my boyfriend, I decided to visit my parents with him after discussing it with Atlas. There was no point in hiding him from Dove because she would have found out eventually. My friends advised me to test Atlas now rather than risk losing him later if Dove succeeded in her intentions. With a lot of apprehension, I brought Atlas to my parents' place. I can't believe how Dove behaved when we arrived. While Atlas was greeting Mom and Dad, Dove practically threw herself at him for a hug. I don't know what made her think Atlas would be interested in her. She even changed her appearance, dyeing her blonde hair black and getting all dressed up as if she was on a date with him.